Archery hunters won't be banned from the woods where the search for Eric Green continues. Police say a man is dead after a drive-by shooting in Hamilton Township. A local designer is calling out Walmart for copying one of her ideas. I'm Nicole Walters, and I'll tell you more on the Pocono Report. Were you employed at the time you were charged?
News 13's Nicole Walters joins us live from a homeless camp in Stroudsburg with more. Nicole.
Oh my gosh, Marie, it's so cold. It's hard to be out here for just 15 minutes, but the tents set up behind me indicate people are preparing for a long stay outside. Residents who have been fighting 5 long years against a strip club in their backyard are breathing a sigh of relief today. And even if same-sex couples aren't applying for their license here, it doesn't mean they're not getting married in the Poconos. But places close to the target search area for Eric Green aren't hearing this sound very often. Ride for the Red, where you can drive your car around the tricky triangle, like I'm doing now. And this is Mandy, but the bigger one is back there. Bucket after bucket, trout are dumped into the lake, just awaiting that perfect cast. No matter what the weather, we found anglers are ready. Yes! Yes! Woo! Much more snow is expected to fall in Monroe County, and it's piling back up rather quickly. Dogs aren't the only ones adding to the cost and taking up space. It's kitten season, and it seems like they're multiplying. The good news is there's a natural bacteria and fungus that kills the moss, and that's exactly what's happening right here. As you can see, they're hanging off. But there's another element coming into play this year. Are you feeling confident?
No comment.
Police are asking any hunters or hikers who may have trail video or if they know of any shelters or bunkers in the area to please contact them. If you see Eric Green, do not approach, and please call 911 immediately. For News 13, I'm Nicole Walters. Back to you in the studio.
News 13's Nicole Walters joins us now live from our Monroe County newsroom with more on today's hearing. Nicole?
Thanks, George. The tape was hard to bear for all, especially those reliving it. But on top of those emotions, Newell seemed to be sleeping throughout the session, enraging the courtroom audience.
He was listening to testimony because he was giving us notes and participating in the defense, so he was not falling asleep.
Rockne Newell had his eyes closed most of the time and seemed unmoved, while audience members and witnesses could barely hold it together, a lot of them crying at today's preliminary hearing.
It was a trying day because what you heard in there was very emotional.
What day?
Okay.
The night of the Ross Township shooting came alive inside the courtroom. A recording of the township meeting revealed the rapid gunfire and then yelling and screaming, people moaning after being shot, then silence, and Bernard Cozen yelling, "He's coming back." Then Linda Kozik yelling to her husband Jerry to stay with her and to breathe. Previously, Newell told police he went to the meeting because it was the only time he could get all 3 township supervisors and solicitor John Dunn together in one location. Rockne's father was there in support and says Rockne just snapped after losing his home after a decades-long property battle, and that he's not a murderer.
He said he was more at peace in there than he was out there, the way they deviled him. Told me that a couple times.
Rockne's father says his son told him he's sorry for what happened, but he was pushed too far. Newell now has additional charges filed against him for what he's accused of doing August 5th.
Reckless endangerment for the other people in the room at the time of the shooting, and attempted murder for the 3 supervisors, each of them individually, and Mr. Dunn.
These charges are added to the already 3 counts of criminal homicide, 2 counts of attempted homicide, and 2 counts of aggravated assault. 8 witnesses took the stand and walked the court through what happened that night and where it happened, many of them identifying Rockne as the shooter.
Well, this was a preliminary hearing, so we have a long way to go before we start talking about how difficult the trial is going to be.
We should respect Mr. Newell's presumption of innocence. He's presumed innocent unless and until a jury of his peers finds him guilty beyond a reasonable doubt.
Everyone just wants justice, no matter what side they're on.
Mr. Newell will have a just trial, and I'm sure it will be exactly what we hope for.
I didn't have a fair trial, but you know, up to the authorities.
The district attorney says he's calling for the death penalty in this case. Newell remains in jail awaiting trial. For News 13, I'm Nicole Walters. George, back to you.
Representatives of the Golden Worship and Retreat Center in Saylorsburg tell us they are shocked by the Prime Minister's actions. They say his request of the United States to extradite Fethullah Gulen, a cleric living in the Islamic retreat, is a sign of his growing intolerance of democratic dissent.
Mr. Gulen has served in establishing friendship among people of different faiths, different nationalities. After he came here, he and his sympathizers have contributed to Turkish-American friendship greatly.
The Prime Minister claims Gulen was involved in a corruption scandal aimed at overthrowing his government. In order for an extradition to occur, there has to be charges filed, and those charges have to be about a crime accepted in the United States. That isn't political.
We don't expect the United States to comply with that request, which is so politically tainted, and it is not based on any charges. Therefore, it is very much a sign of his becoming increasingly authoritarian.
But Turkey's Prime Minister isn't the only one alarmed by Gulen. Numerous protests have occurred here. Those participating said Gulen is promoting a radical Islamic agenda in Turkey.
The people who come here are peaceful people. They're for democracy. They're for interfaith dialogue.
Retreat member Yasmin Aksoy says the protesters are entitled to their opinion, but it couldn't be farther from the truth. Gulen's movement promotes education and a moderate, peaceful form of Islam. In Monroe County, Nicole Walters, News 13.
I feel like we did something for them, and now they wanted to do something for the other vets that come after them, and it's you have to be there to see it, I guess. And but yep.
Valor Clinic founder Mark Bayless's tears revealed just how much he's pleasantly surprised. Recently, grant money allowed the purchase of the Hotel Jonas to be used as a place to get homeless veterans off the street and back on their feet. It's something Bayless was trying to provide for about 3 years. Now it just needs to be renovated to its original condition.
The vets coming back aren't getting the things that they need. And I'm fortunate enough, I mean, we're not rich, but we're not poor, but we're in a position where we can give something back.
That's where people like Kenneth and Cheryl Stoll come in, but under special circumstances. 2 years ago, they needed Bayless's help. Kenneth wasn't able to work after being diagnosed with cancer and diabetes as a result of serving in Vietnam, and Veterans Affairs provided a financial headache. Bayless took care of all the paperwork. Right before Cheryl became sick, needing hospital care herself without insurance.
Finally granted 100% permanent disability, and that allowed my wife to get insurance.
It ended up saving us a pretty good chunk of change, probably around $15,000 to $20,000.
Worries aside, their focus turned to the Valor Clinic as Kenneth was going through chemo. Among other donations, they decided to spend $1,500 on most of the materials needed to replace the hotel's missing deck. Bayless was tricked. He thought Cheryl was just going to put the materials list on Facebook.
And they rolled up with a U-Haul trailer full of like, what is that? What are you doing here? You can't do this. You can't do this. And she started telling me the story why. And next thing you know, she's crying, and you're like...
Bayless couldn't believe how much he had impacted their lives that they wanted to give back. And they're still doing more. Cheryl collects money from friends to donate.
We are neither one physically able to come down here and do any work for him. I come from a long line of vets. Of course, my husband is a veteran. I think they deserve everything they can have.
Much more work and money is required before the grand opening scheduled for October. If you'd like to help, just contact the Valor Clinic. In Monroe County, Nicole Walters, News 13.
One day I was sitting looking out my back window and I said, honey, wouldn't a little stone wall look very nice over there?
Deborah Elmeyer never imagined her little request would turn into a big 19-year project. Stone upon stone has been stacked into the now 1,000-foot wall that stretches around the Elmeyers' 2-acre property.
For 32 years, I drove tractor trailer. It was very stressful. And so it was very relaxing to me. I always called it my therapy.
Howard Elmeyer says the wall became a hobby that grew with the help of surrounding farmers.
Of course, they always throw the rocks out of their fields, and they gave me permission to go through their stone rows.
He would sort through the pile for flat stones and haul them back over in his cart. But there's more than just that making up the wall. Howard and Deborah like to explore. Treasures found in the local area are also embedded in.
Big lumps of coal from the Wilkes-Barre and Eastern Railroad from way back in the 30s. There's bricks that we collect. I'm actually a member of the International Brick Collectors Association. There's a plaque celebrating the adoption of our daughter.
Now there's also a plaque signifying the project is done this year. Only a day's work is left to finish it off. Howard says about 5 more feet remain.
Some people say, what are you going to do now? But there's always maintenance.
Love, memories, and a lot of history has gone into building this wall. There's even a time capsule. But where is it?
I'll never tell. I'll never tell.
The Elmire family wants their history and memories to live on. There's written information, arrowheads, photos, and other things inside the capsule.
It's placed in the wall to be discovered maybe someday, by whom we have no idea.
They just hope other people will get to enjoy the wall someday as much as they have. Howard tells us he already has people dropping by to check out his work. In Monroe County, Nicole Walters, News 13.